Royal Watchers, we've got a lot to unpack in today's deep dive into King Charles Roman III's historic visit to Samoa. In this extended look, we explore the rich cultural ceremonies, significant political discussions, and broader global issues that are shaping the monarch's tour of the Pacific. If you're a fan of royal history and contemporary diplomacy, this video is for you. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest royal news. As part of his 11-day tour of Australia and Samoa, King Charles Roman III was welcomed into the heart of Samoan culture with a traditional kava drinking ceremony, a deeply symbolic and sacred event in the Pacific. This trip, his first major international visit since being diagnosed with cancer earlier this year, has already proven to be of monumental significance both for the monarch and the countries he visits. On Thursday, Charles, dressed in a white safari-style suit, took his place at the head of a beautifully carved timber house where he was presented with a polished half-coconut filled with kava, or as it's known in Samoa, ava. This peppery drink, made from the roots of the kava plant, holds a special place in Pacific Island culture. It's mildly intoxicating and used to honor special guests, making Charles's participation a key moment in building relations between the British monarchy and Samoa. During the ceremony, kava roots were paraded through the hall and prepared by the daughter of the local chief. The roots were filtered through a traditional sieve made from the dried bark of the fau tree, symbolizing the deep connection between the Samoan people and the natural world. The drink was then presented to the king, who blessed it by saying, "May God bless this ava," before lifting it to his lips. He fully participated in the ceremony as applause from onlookers echoed through the longhouse. For many Samoans, this was a historic moment, the first time their king had visited their shores, and the excitement was palpable. The ceremonial kava drinking and the formal rituals surrounding Charles's elevation to the rank of Tupuatemeses, or High Chief, in the village of Metatufu underscored the deep respect and admiration that Pacific Islanders hold for their monarch. It wasn't just King Charles making headlines. Queen Camilla, seated next to her husband during the ceremony, was also an important figure during the visit. The 76-year-old queen, fanning herself against the stifling tropical heat, watched proudly as Charles was bestowed the title of High Chief in Samoa, marking the couple's deepening bond with the Pacific region. This tour represents not only a momentous occasion for Charles, but also a significant event for Camilla, as she continues to support her husband's work while championing humanitarian causes of her own. Throughout the tour, the couple has attended several important events, showing their dedication to both cultural preservation and global diplomacy. While the ceremonial aspects of the visit are important, the real-world issues King Charles is addressing during his trip carry even more weight. One of the key topics on the agenda during his time in Samoa is climate change, an issue that has profoundly affected the Pacific Islands. Rising sea levels and extreme weather have become a devastating reality for these nations, and local leaders are eager to engage with King Charles on these critical challenges. Chief Linati Victor Tumapu, who played a key role in welcoming Charles to Samoa, spoke candidly about the environmental devastation the country is facing. "The high tides are chewing away at our reef and where the mangroves are," he said. Mangroves, which are essential for protecting shorelines and providing habitats for marine life, are being rapidly eroded by rising sea levels. "Our community relies on the mangrove area for mud crabs and fish, but the tide has risen over the past 20 years by about 2 or 3 meters, up to 10 feet. As a longtime environmental advocate, King Charles is well suited to engage with these issues. Climate change is one of the top priorities at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which Charles is attending in Apia, Samoa. Pacific leaders, including those from Tuvalu, Vanuatu, and Fiji, are pushing for more aggressive action from the world's largest polluters, including Australia, Britain, and Canada. These island nations have endorsed a fossil fuel nonproliferation treaty, which calls for a sharp reduction in the use of fossil fuels in order to curb greenhouse gas emissions and limit the worst impacts of climate change. The Pacific nations argue that the countries most responsible for emissions must do more to address the crisis. This push for a global treaty is particularly important as the island nations face existential threats from rising seas and severe weather events. Climate change isn't the only major issue being discussed at the Commonwealth meeting. Another pressing topic is the legacy of colonialism, and there are growing calls from Commonwealth nations for reparations to address historical injustices. 3 potential candidates for the Commonwealth Secretary-General position have all expressed their support for reparations, specifically as a way to address the wrongs of slavery and colonialism. Joshua Seda, a candidate from Tuvalu, suggested that reparations could take non-traditional forms such as climate financing, which would help vulnerable nations like those in the Pacific address the impacts of global warming. We can find a solution that will begin to address some injustices of the past and put them in the context of what's happening around us today, Seda said. For King Charles, who has previously acknowledged the darker aspects of Britain's colonial past, these discussions are likely to be complex and sensitive. As monarch, he will need to balance his role as a unifying figure with the calls for justice and reparations from Commonwealth nations that are seeking to rectify past wrongs. King Charles Roman III's Pacific tour and participation in the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting come at a pivotal moment for the organization. As the head of the Commonwealth, Charles's influence will be critical in shaping the future direction of the organization, particularly as it grapples with issues like climate change, the legacy of colonialism, and the shifting dynamics of global power. The Commonwealth, a political association of 56 member states, many of which are former territories of the British Empire, has been a key platform for promoting democracy, human rights, and economic development. However, the organization now faces new challenges as it navigates the post-colonial world and addresses the demands for greater accountability and justice. For Charles, the Commonwealth meeting in Apia presents an opportunity to engage with leaders from across the globe on some of the most pressing issues of our time. His long-standing commitment to environmental causes, combined with his willingness to confront Britain's colonial past, positions him as a monarch deeply invested in the future of the Commonwealth. As King Charles's Pacific tour continues, it's clear that this trip is about more than just ceremonial duties. His visit to Samoa and his engagement with the pressing issues of climate change and colonial reparations mark the beginning of a new chapter for the British monarchy. This chapter is defined by a monarch who is not only honoring the traditions of the past, but also deeply engaged with the challenges of the present and future. For the people of Samoa, Charles's elevation to the rank of High Chief is a significant moment, one that underscores the importance of their relationship with the British monarchy. But beyond the titles and ceremonies, the real significance of this visit lies in the conversations being had and the actions that will follow. What are your thoughts on King Charles's visit to Samoa and his role in addressing climate change and colonial reparations? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on all things royal.